Great. Just absolutely fantastic. I mumbled, staring at the flashing red alerts on my command console. Another glorious day serving the Galactic Consortium. My name is Vrax Telluron, commander of the Consortium vessel Astral Sentinel, and today was rapidly becoming the worst day of my entire 300-cycle existence. The emergency klaxons blared through our ship as my crew frantically attempted to stabilize our rapidly deteriorating situation. Status report, Lieutenant Plex. I barked at MY second in command. Tall, gangly artesian with 4 arms and luminous green eyes tapped frantically at his console. Not good, Commander. The Hive fleet has destroyed our escort vessels. We are the last functioning military vessel in the quadrant. Shields at 26% and falling. Weapons systems operating at minimal capacity. And the civilians? I asked, already dreading the answer. The evacuation transports are still groundside on Proxima colony. Approximately 8,000 colonists waiting for extraction, Plex replied, his voice quavering slightly. The Hive ships will reach the colony in approximately 40 minutes. I slammed my fist against the armrest of my command chair. 40 minutes to evacuate 8,000 colonists? With our ship barely holding together? That's just perfect. The Hive had emerged from the unknown regions of space nearly 3 years ago. Insectoid creatures with a relentless hunger and a frightening collective intelligence. They consumed everything in their path: resources, technology, and especially organic life forms. The Consortium had been fighting a losing battle ever since. Commander, called Oren Blask, our communications officer. Unlike most Valari, who tended to be excitable and high-strung, Oren maintained remarkable calm during crises. Not today, though. Today, even Oren looked terrified. We are receiving distress signals from all remaining outposts in the system. The Hive is moving faster than anticipated. Of course they are, I muttered. Because why would the universe give us even the slightest break? Science Officer Talia Durant approached my command chair, her purple skin ashen with concern. Commander, I've been analyzing the Hive's attack patterns. They're not just random assaults anymore. They are learning, adapting to our defensive strategies. This isn't just another raid. They are executing a coordinated extinction event. An extinction event? Well, that certainly brightens my day, Talia. Thank you for that delightful assessment. I couldn't help the sarcasm. It was either that or screaming in panic. The ship rocked violently as another blast from a Hive cruiser struck our weakening shields. Shields at 14%. Called out Plex that I made a quick decision. Divert all non-essential power to shields and engines. We need to reach that colony. But Commander, protested our engineering chief, Zarx Nimbler, his voice crackling through the comm system. That includes life support for the lower decks. Evacuate those sections and seal them off, I ordered. We are no good to those colonists if we are blown to atomic particles. Yes, Commander, Zarx replied reluctantly. I turned to our tactical officer, Mira Quint, a stout, red-skinned Duranian with a reputation for miraculous solutions. Mira, please tell me you have something up your sleeve. A secret weapon? A brilliant strategy? A convenient wormhole that leads to anywhere but here? Myra's expression was grim. Nothing conventional, Commander. We have tried everything in the tactical handbook against these creatures. I sense a but coming, I said, leaning forward. But, Mira continued, there might be one option we haven't considered. It's unconventional, possibly suicidal. At this point, I'm open to anything short of surrendering, I said. Mira glanced around nervously before speaking. We could call the humans. The bridge fell silent. Even the alarms seemed to quiet for a moment. The humans. I repeated, not sure I'd heard correctly. You want to contact the species we quarantined 50 years ago because they were too dangerous to join galactic society? Talia stepped forward. Commander, the human system is only 2 light jumps from here. They have developed significant military technology since the quarantine began. Our intelligence suggests they have been preparing for extraterrestrial threats since we made first contact. Preparing to fight us, you mean? I corrected. Perhaps, Talia admitted. But the Hive represents a greater threat to them than we ever did. Self-preservation may motivate them to assist. Another violent shudder ran through the ship. Shields at 9%. Plex shouted that I rubbed my forehead ridges, a nervous habit from childhood. Let me understand this correctly. Our plan is to break a consortium quarantine, approach a species known for its exceptional violence and unpredictability, and ask them to help us fight a war we are clearly losing. That's approximately correct, yes, said Talia. I let out a laugh that bordered on hysterical. And here I thought this day couldn't get any more absurd. Fine. Contact the humans. Tell them whatever you need to. Promise them technology, resources, a seat on the Consortium Council. I don't care. Just get them here before those colonists become Hive food. Oren swiveled in his chair. Commander, there's a problem. The quarantine includes a communication blackout. We need to send a ship directly to their system to make contact. I closed my eyes for a moment. Of course, nothing can ever be simple. We could use the scout vessel, suggested Plex. It's small, fast, and equipped with a jump drive. Who would go? Asked Mira. It will be a one-way trip. The scout vessel couldn't make it back before the Hive overruns this system. Before I could respond, Talia spoke up. I will go. I have studied human culture and psychology extensively. If anyone can convince them to help, it's me. I studied her for a moment. Talia was brilliant, composed, and one of my most valued officers. Sending her amounted to a suicide mission. But we were out of options. 8,000 colonists were counting on us. Very well, I said finally. Take the scout vessel. Get to Earth as quickly as possible. Make them understand what's at stake. Talia nodded solemnly. What exactly am I authorized to offer them in exchange for assistance? Whatever it takes, I replied grimly. Full consortium membership, advanced technology, exclusive mining rights to uninhabited systems. If they want to renegotiate the quarantine terms, fine. We are beyond playing political games now. Understood, Commander, Talia said, turning to leave the bridge. And Talia, I called after her. Be careful. The humans may be our only hope, but that doesn't make them any less dangerous. She offered a small smile. I will remember that. As Talia departed for the shuttle bay, I turned back to my crew. The rest of us have a colony to protect. Mira, devise whatever defensive strategy you can to slow down the Hive ships. Plex, coordinate with colony leadership to expedite evacuation procedures. Oren, maintain communication with all outposts. I want real-time updates on Hive movements. And what if the humans refuse to help? Asked Plex quietly that I met his gaze steadily. Then we do what we have sworn to do. Protect consortium citizens until our last breath. The next 30 minutes passed in a blur of activity. From the bridge viewport, I watched as Talia's scout vessel disappeared in a flash of light, jumping toward the human system. Meanwhile, we positioned the Astral Sentinel between the approaching Hive fleet and Proxima colony, preparing for what would likely be our final stand. First wave of evacuation transports launching, reported Oren. Approximately 1,000 colonists aboard. Good, I replied. How many transports total? 8, said Plex. If they all reach capacity and make it off-world, we might save everyone. I finished. Let's make that happen. The first Hive Scout ships appeared on our sensors minutes later. Sleek, organic-looking vessels that reminded me of the stinging insect from my homeworld. Beautiful in their way and utterly lethal. Targeting lead vessels, announced Mira, her fingers dancing across her tactical display. Firing solution ready. Fire at will. I ordered. Let's give those evacuation ships the time they need. The Astral Sentinel's remaining weapons batteries sprang to life, lancing out at the approaching Hive Scouts. 2 of them erupted in silent explosions, but there were dozens more behind them. Hive cruisers approaching, warned Plex. 5 minutes until they are in weapons range. I nodded grimly. Status of evacuation. Second transport launching now, Oren reported. Third and fourth are boarding. Not fast enough. We wouldn't have time to evacuate everyone before the main Hive force arrived. I made another difficult decision. Zarks, I called the engineering, How much power can you divert to our forward shields? If we shut down everything else? Maybe enough to withstand 3, possibly 4 direct hits from a Hive cruiser, came the reply. Do it, I ordered. And prepare to vent our auxiliary plasma reactors on my command. Commander, Zarks sounded alarmed. Venting the reactors would create a massive energy surge. It could cripple nearby vessels, but it would leave us powerless for at least 10 minutes. I'm aware of the risks, I said firmly. But if we can disable the first wave of Hive cruisers, it might buy enough time for more transports to escape. The ship shuddered again as Hive weapons fire began to impact our shields. Third transport launching, announced Orin. Fourth preparing for launch. Shields at 7%, warned Plex. Commander, we can't take much more of this. I leaned forward in my command chair. Zarks, stand by to vent reactors on my mark. Mira, target the lead Hive cruiser with everything we have out left. Targeting, confirmed Mira. Ready to fire. The massive Hive cruiser loomed in our viewport now, an enormous insectoid monstrosity bristling with biological weapons. Its surface seemed to pulse and writhe, as if the ship itself were alive. Fire, I commanded. The Astral Sentinel unleashed its remaining arsenal, a desperate barrage that struck the Hive cruiser dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a series of explosions rippled across the alien vessel's hull. Direct hit, exclaimed Mira. Their central weapons array is damaged. Now, Zarks, I ordered. Vent the reactors. The ship's lights dimmed momentarily. Then a massive pulse of energy erupted from the Astral Sentinel, expanding outward in a visible wave. When it reached the damaged Hive cruiser and its escorts, the effect was immediate. Their organic technology seemed particularly vulnerable to the energy surge, and the ships began to drift, their systems temporarily overloaded. It worked, shouted Plex. Hive vessels are disabled. For now, I cautioned. How long until they recover? Based on previous encounters, 7 to 8 minutes, estimated Mira that I nodded. And our systems? Reboot sequence initiated, reported Zarks from engineering. Minimal functions in 5 minutes, full power in 10. I turned to Orin. Status of the evacuation. 4th transport away. 5th and 6th boarding now, he replied. Commander, at current pace, we won't evacuate everyone before our systems or the Hive ships recover. The weight of command had never felt heavier. How many will be left behind? Orin's expression was somber. Approximately 2,000 colonists. 2,000 lives. Men, women, children. Families who had sought a new beginning on Proxima colony, now facing certain death. There has to be another way, I muttered, more to myself than my crew. Commander, called Orin suddenly. I'm detecting an unusual energy signature at the edge of the system. I frowned. Hive reinforcements? No, said Orin, sounding confused. I have never seen readings like this before. A moment later, space itself seemed to tear open in a brilliant flash of light. Through this rift emerged vessels unlike any I'd seen before. Their design was distinctly different from both Consortium and Hive ships. Angular, utilitarian, bristling with what were unmistakably weapons. Are those? Began Plex, his voice trailing off. Human vessels. I confirmed, hardly believing my eyes. Talia actually reached them. How do they get here so quickly? Wondered Mira. Even with our fastest jump drives, it should have taken hours to reach their system and return. It seems we have underestimated their technological progress during the quarantine. I replied that a communication request flashed on Orin's console. Commander, we are being hailed by the lead human vessel. I straightened in my chair. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a human with dark skin and determined eyes, wearing what appeared to be a military uniform adorned with various insignia. This is Admiral Timothy Drake of the United Earth Defense Force, announced the human. We receive your ambassador and her distress call. Looks like we arrived just in time for the party. I stared at the screen, momentarily speechless. How had they developed such advanced jump technology? How had they assembled a battle fleet so quickly? And most importantly, why had they come to our aid? Finding my voice, I replied. "This is Commander Vrax Telluron of the consortium vessel Astral Sentinel. Your assistance is unexpected but greatly appreciated, Admiral Drake." The human's lips curved into what I recognized as a smile, though there was little warmth in it. "We will have time for proper introductions later, Commander." Your ambassador explained the situation. "We understand you have civilians that need evacuation and hostile forces approaching. What's your current status?" I quickly outlined our situation, the disabled Hive ships, our own powerless state, and the ongoing evacuation efforts. Drake nodded briskly. "We will handle the Hive forces. Your priority should be getting those colonists to safety." He glanced off-screen, issuing orders to someone outside our view, then returned his attention to me. "My science team is transmitting a power distribution protocol to your engineers. It should speed up your system recovery." True to his word, Zarks confirmed receiving technical data moments later. "Commander, these modifications are ingenious. System recovery time reduced to 3 minutes." I couldn't hide my surprise. "Thank you, Admiral. But why are you helping us?" "The quarantine can be discussed when people aren't in immediate danger," Drake interrupted. "Let's focus on survival first, politics second." The screen split, showing a tactical display of the system. The human fleet was deploying with surprising efficiency, positioning themselves between our crippled ship and the temporarily disabled Hive vessels. "Fifth transport away," reported Orin. "Sixth preparing for launch. Hive ships showing signs of recovery," warned Mira. "Estimated 2 minutes until they are operational." Admiral Drake's expression hardened. "Time to see what these bugs are made of. Commander Telluron, I suggest you complete your evacuation as quickly as possible. Things are about to get messy." The transmission ended, and I watched in fascination as the human vessels moved into attack formation. Their ships were smaller than our own, but they moved with remarkable speed and precision. Whatever quarrels existed between our peoples, there was no denying their military prowess. "Our systems are coming back online," announced Zarks from engineering. "Power at 60% and climbing. Divert all available power to shields and evacuation coordination," I ordered. "Let's get those remaining transports away while the humans engage the Hive." What happened next would forever change my understanding of warfare. The human vessels launched their attack against the recovering Hive ships with devastating effectiveness. Their weapons technology was unlike anything in the consortium's arsenal. Focused energy beams that seemed specifically calibrated to disrupt the Hive's organic technology, followed by explosive ordnance that penetrated deep into the alien vessels before detonating. "Sixth transport away," reported Orin, though his attention, like everyone else's, was partly focused on the battle unfolding before us. "Seventh and eighth boarding now. These are the last ones, Commander." I nodded, my gaze fixed on the viewport. The humans fought with a combination of disciplined coordination and wild unpredictability that seemed to confuse the Hive's collective intelligence. Where consortium tactics had failed, the humans were succeeding. "How?" whispered Plex beside me. "How did they develop such effective weapons against an enemy they have never encountered?" A chilling thought occurred to me. Perhaps they had encountered something similar before. Perhaps the violent tendencies that had led to their quarantine had also prepared them for threats we couldn't imagine. "Seventh transport away," announced Orin. "Eighth and final transport at 90% capacity." "Our systems?" I asked. "Power at 85%, replied Zarks. "Shields at 40% and holding." The Hive cruisers were now fully engaged with the human fleet. Despite their superior numbers, the Hive vessels were clearly struggling against the humans' aggressive tactics and unfamiliar weaponry. "Final transport ready for launch," reported Orin. "Get them out of there," I ordered. As the last evacuation ship lifted off from Proxima Colony, I allowed myself a moment of hope. Perhaps we would survive this day, after all. But that hope was quickly tempered by a new realization. We had just introduced a quarantined species to the wider galaxy, and their first impression was of us at our weakest and most desperate. What would happen when the dust settled? What would the humans demand in return for their assistance? And how would the consortium react to my breaking of the quarantine protocols? Those were problems for tomorrow. Today, we had lives to save and a battle to survive. All transports away, Commander, confirmed Orin. Heading for the designated safe jump coordinates. Excellent work, everyone, I said, genuine pride in my voice. Now let's see if we can assist our unexpected allies. As the Astral Sentinel systems returned to full power, we turned to join the human fleet in their battle against the Hive. For better or worse, a new chapter in galactic history had begun. The quarantine was broken, the humans were back, and nothing would ever be the same again. Joining forces with humans. If anyone had suggested such an alliance 3 hours ago, I would have questioned their sanity or suspected recreational substance abuse. Yet here we were, the proud consortium vessel Astral Sentinel, limping alongside a fleet of human warships to engage the most terrifying enemy the galaxy had ever known. The universe certainly has a twisted sense of humor. Commander Telluron called Lieutenant Plex from his station. The human vessels are requesting tactical coordination data. They want to integrate our targeting systems with theirs. I hesitated. Sharing our military technology with humans? The Consortium Security Council would have collective cardiac arrests. But then again, those bureaucrats weren't here facing down a Hive armada. Send them what they need, I decided, but monitor what they access. I trust necessity, not humans. Yes, Commander, Plex replied, his 4 hands moving rapidly across his console. Within moments, a tactical overlay appeared on our main display, showing both our ship and the human vessels highlighted in blue, with the Hive ships marked in red. The integration was seamless, far more sophisticated than I had expected. They are fast learners, muttered Mira from Tactical. Their systems just adapted to our encryption protocols without any compatibility issues. Meaning, I asked, meaning they have likely been studying our technology for decades, Mira replied grimly. Despite the quarantine, before I could ponder that disturbing revelation further, Admiral Drake's face appeared on our communication screen once more. Commander Telluron, we have analyzed your ship's capabilities and current status, he said without preamble. Your primary weapon systems are compromised, but your sensor array is still superior to ours for bioorganic detection. We need you to act as our targeting platform while our vessels deliver the payload. Understood, Admiral, I replied, though I'm curious about this payload. Your weapons seem remarkably effective against the Hive. A hint of a smile crossed the human's face. Let's just say we have had our own experiences with hive mind entities on Earth. Different context, similar vulnerabilities. The implication sent a chill through me. What horrors had these humans faced on their isolated world that prepared them for an enemy like this? Transferring sensor control to your targeting systems, I said, nodding to Mira, who executed the command. Excellent, Drake responded. Now about those Hive reinforcements approaching from the outer system. I blinked in surprise. What reinforcements? Drake looked genuinely puzzled for a moment. Your long-range sensors haven't detected them? 3 capital ships, approximately 20 minutes out. Orin quickly confirmed this with a scan. He's right, Commander. 3 massive signatures just entered detection range. How did they know before we did? I turned back to the screen. It seems your sensor technology has advanced considerably since our last encounter. Admiral, necessity breeds innovation, Commander. When you live in a dangerous neighborhood, you learn to watch your back, Drake replied with what I recognized as a human idiom. Now, about those reinforcements. My science team has developed a potential solution, but it requires getting close to their command ship. The command ship, I echoed. We have never been able to identify a command structure within the Hive fleet. Drake's expression turned grim. Trust me, it's there. The largest vessel, near the center of their formation. They all respond to it, even if the connection isn't obvious. I studied the tactical display with new eyes, noting the positioning he described. Could the humans truly understand something about the Hive that had eluded our best xenobiologists? What do you propose? I asked. A joint operation, Drake explained. Your vessel has adaptive shielding technology that can briefly mimic Hive energy signatures. Our flagship carries a device that can disrupt their collective consciousness, but we need to get within 1,000 kilometers of the command ship. That's suicide, I protested. Even with your impressive weapons, the concentration of Hive vessels around that position would overwhelm any approach. Not if they don't see us coming, Drake countered. Not if we look like one of them. I understood his plan then. Use the Astral Sentinel's adaptive shields to disguise both our ships, approach the command vessel under the pretense of being damaged Hive ships returning to the fold, then strike at the heart of their coordination. It was audacious. Reckless. Possibly brilliant. This device of yours, I said slowly. What exactly does it do? Drake exchanged glances with someone off-screen before answering. It generates a cascading neural disruption field specifically calibrated to the Hive's psychic frequency. In simple terms, it gives them the equivalent of a massive migraine, breaks their connection temporarily. And you develop this. When exactly? I couldn't keep the suspicion from my voice. Let's focus on surviving first, Commander. I promise a full technological exchange afterward, Drake replied, neatly avoiding my question that I weighed our options quickly. The evacuation transports were safely away, but the Hive reinforcements would likely pursue them once they arrived. Our current engagement was merely holding the line, not winning the battle. A decisive strike might be our only chance. Very well, Admiral, I decided. The Astral Sentinel will accompany your flagship. Zarks, I called engineering. How quickly can you modify our shields to mimic Hive energy signatures? With the data from our current engagements? 15 minutes, Commander, came the reply. You have 10, I said firmly. The rest of my fleet will create a diversion, Drake added. Draw their attention to the opposite vector while we make our approach. Once the disruption device activates, all ships will target the command vessel with everything they have got. I nodded. We will need to coordinate the timing precisely. My first officer is transmitting synchronization protocols now, Drake said. Commander Telluron, thank you for your trust. I know this isn't easy for you. The sincerity in his voice surprised me. Survival rarely follows easy paths, Admiral. Let's hope this one leads somewhere worthwhile. The next 20 minutes were a blur of activity as we prepared for the joint operation. The Astral Sentinel's engineering team worked feverishly to modify our shields while the tactical officers coordinated with the human vessels. Meanwhile, the rest of the human fleet engaged the Hive forces in a series of hit-and-run attacks, deliberately drawing attention away from our position. Talia had returned aboard one of the human shuttles, bringing with her a team of human scientists carrying equipment I didn't recognize. They integrated seamlessly with our crew, displaying a level of adaptive cooperation that contradicted everything I'd been taught about humans. Their technological development is remarkable, Talia reported, joining me on the bridge. But what's truly fascinating is their psychological approach. They don't think like us, Commander. Meaning, I prompted. Their minds work in parallel, not sequential patterns like most consortium species, she explained. They can hold contradictory ideas simultaneously without cognitive distress. It makes them unpredictable. That's hardly reassuring when we are staking our lives on their plan. I noted dryly that Talia's expression was thoughtful. Perhaps unpredictability is exactly what we need against an enemy that anticipates conventional responses. Shield modifications complete, Commander, announced Zarks through the comm, though I should note, this configuration is highly unstable. We can maintain the Hive energy signature for approximately 12 minutes before the emitters overload. That will have to be enough, I replied. Status of the human device? Installed and calibrated, reported one of the human scientists, a tall woman with striking auburn hair whom they called Dr. Petra Novak. The neural disruptor is synchronized with your ship's power grid. On your command, it will channel energy through your shield emitters, amplifying its effective range. I nodded, turning to the view screen where Admiral Drake awaited. We are ready, Admiral. As are we, Drake confirmed. Initiating diversion maneuvers now. Prepare to alter course on my mark. On the tactical display, we watched as the majority of the human fleet suddenly executed a complex series of movements, launching a barrage of weapons fire at the outlying Hive vessels. The response was immediate. Hive ships broke formation to counter the attack, creating a momentary gap in their defensive screen. Now, ordered Drake, the Astral Sentinel and the human flagship, which I now knew was called the Defiance, altered course simultaneously, activating their disguised energy signatures. As we approached the Hive formation, I felt a tightness in my chest, a primitive fear response that even 3 centuries of evolution couldn't quite suppress. Hive vessels are not responding to our approach, reported or intensely. The disguise is holding. 5,000 kilometers to target, announced Mira. Hive reinforcements have entered the system and are moving to engage the human diversion fleet. I exchanged glances with Talia, who stood beside my command chair. Too many variables, I murmured. If those reinforcements realize what we are doing, the humans anticipated this, she replied quietly. Look, on the tactical display, 3 smaller human vessels that had been hanging back suddenly accelerated toward the incoming Hive reinforcements. Their engines burned with an intensity that suggested they had overridden safety protocols. What are they doing? I wondered aloud. Admiral Drake's voice came through the comm system, grim but resolved. Those are unmanned drones, Commander, loaded with experimental warheads. They will keep the reinforcements occupied. The sacrifice implied in his tone was unmistakable. Those weren't drones. They were crewed vessels on a suicide mission. 3,000 kilometers to target, reported Mira. Still undetected. On the view screen, we could now clearly see the Hive Command ship, a massive, elongated structure that pulsed with sickly bioluminescence. Unlike the other Hive vessels, this one bristled with what appeared to be sensory appendages rather than weapons. Fascinating, breathed Talia. It's not primarily a war vessel. It's a processing center, a living coordinator. 2,000 kilometers, said Mira. Wait, energy spike from the command ship. I think they have detected us. Shields dropping disguise, warned Zarks from engineering. Emitters are overloading. We are made, I announced grimly. Admiral Drake, we need to activate the device now. We are still outside optimal range, Drake protested. Effectiveness drops by 60% at this distance. It's now or never, I insisted. The Hive ships are already responding. Indeed, the tactical display showed Hive vessels breaking off from other engagements, turning toward our position with alarming speed. Drake made his decision quickly, activating Neural Disruptor in 3, 2, arc. A strange vibration ran through the Astral Sentinel as the human device powered up, drawing energy from our systems. The bridge lights flickered, and for a moment I feared we had miscalculated. Then we saw it. The Hive Command ship seemed to shudder, its bioluminescent patterns stuttering erratically. The surrounding Hive vessels suddenly moved in disjointed, uncoordinated patterns, some colliding with each other, others firing weapons at empty space. It's working, exclaimed Talia. Their collective consciousness is destabilized. All vessels, this is Admiral Drake, came to broadcast on all frequencies. Target the command ship. Concentrated fire on its central node. The human fleet responded immediately, breaking from their diversionary actions to deliver a devastating barrage against the now vulnerable command ship. The Astral Sentinel's remaining weapons joined the assault, targeting the coordinates specified by the human scientists. The Hive vessel's organic hull began to rupture under the combined attack, spewing strange luminescent fluid into space. Its defensive systems fired sporadically, without their usual deadly accuracy. Continue bombardment, ordered Drake. We need to destroy it completely. For several tense minutes, the Allied fleet poured destruction upon the Hive command ship. Finally, with a silent flash visible even at our distance, the vessel's central section collapsed, triggering a chain reaction that tore it apart. The effect on the remaining Hive ships was immediate and astonishing. Some simply went inert, drifting lifelessly. Others began to attack one another, as if suddenly perceiving their own kind as enemies. The reinforcements that had just arrived reversed course, fleeing back toward the system's edge in disarray. They are retreating, announced Mira, disbelief evident in her voice. The Hive is actually retreating. A cheer erupted on the bridge, quickly spreading throughout the ship. Even I couldn't suppress a smile of relief and incredulity. Damage report. I requested once the celebration had slightly subsided. Shields at 12%, reported Plex. Weapons systems critically damaged. Life support stable. Hull integrity at 74%. Better than I had dared hope. Casualties, 23 injured, 8 seriously. No fatalities. Plex replied, his tone reflecting the miracle of that statistic. The view screen activated once more, showing Admiral Drake. Unlike before, he now appeared relaxed, even allowing himself a smile. "Congratulations, Commander Telluron," he said. "It appears our unlikely alliance has yielded remarkable results." "Indeed it has, Admiral," I agreed. "Though I confess, I have many questions about how you developed such effective countermeasures against an enemy you supposedly never encountered." Drake's expression turned more serious. "All in good time, Commander. For now, I suggest we focus on securing the system and ensuring the safety of those evacuation transports." "Agreed," I said, recognizing the deflection but accepting it for now. "What about the remaining Hive vessels? Without their command ship, they will remain disorganized for approximately 72 hours before a new hierarchy establishes itself," explained Dr. Novak, who had joined us on the bridge. "It gives us time to track them, study them further, and prepare additional countermeasures." "You seem very certain of that timeline," I observed at Dr. Novak exchanged glances with Admiral Drake before responding. "We have run extensive simulations based on similar biological collective systems." "More evasions. More questions for later." "Commander," interrupted Oren, "we are receiving transmissions from Consortium Command. They are demanding explanations about the quarantine violation and unauthorized contact with humans." I sighed heavily. Politics, always the aftermath of survival. Admiral Drake chuckled. "Perhaps I can help with that. The Hive represents a threat to all sentient life in this galaxy, not just the Consortium. This encounter presents an opportunity to revise outdated policies." "You seem very prepared for diplomatic negotiations, Admiral," I noted suspiciously. "Let's just say we have been preparing for first contact, or in this case, renewed contact, for quite some time," Drake replied. "We have developed comprehensive proposals for mutual defense agreements, technology exchanges, and cultural cooperation programs." I stared at him for a moment, the implications sinking in. "You have been waiting for this. For a crisis that would force us to break the quarantine." Drake's expression remained neutral. "We have been waiting for an opportunity to prove we are more valuable as allies than as isolated potential threats. The Hive provided that opportunity sooner than expected." "And how exactly did you know the Hive would attack here? How did you arrive so quickly with exactly the right technology to counter them?" I pressed. "Why don't we discuss this further aboard the Defiance?" suggested Drake smoothly. "My medical team can assist with your injured crew members, and our engineers can help with critical repairs to your vessel. Meanwhile, we can begin formal discussions about our new alliance." It wasn't really a request, and we both knew it. The humans had just saved us from annihilation. They held the tactical advantage, and they clearly had an agenda beyond simple heroics. "Very well, Admiral," I conceded. "I will shuttle over with a small delegation." After making arrangements with my senior officers, I departed for the human flagship along with Talia and Mira. The shuttle ride was brief, giving me little time to prepare for what awaited us. The Defiance's docking bay was a marvel of efficiency and technology. Human crew members moved with purpose, their equipment noticeably more advanced than what intelligence reports had suggested possible. We were greeted by a formal honor guard and escorted to what appeared to be a conference room. Admiral Drake awaited us, along with several other humans in various uniforms denoting different branches of their military and scientific divisions. "Commander Telluron," Drake greeted me. "Welcome aboard the Defiance. Please be seated. There's much to discuss." Once we were all settled, Drake activated a holographic display showing a galactic map. Certain sectors were highlighted in red, all locations of known Hive activity. "The Hive isn't a new threat," Drake began without preamble. "They have been expanding through the outer reaches of the galaxy for nearly 15 years. Initially, they avoided both human and consortium space, focusing on less developed regions. I frowned. The consortium only encountered them 3 years ago. Yes, Drake nodded. Because they deliberately avoided your territory until they had gathered sufficient strength and intelligence. They are not mindless consumers, Commander. They are strategic. How do you know this? Demanded Mirad. A new figure entered the conference room. A tall, slender being with iridescent skin that was definitely not human. I recognized the species immediately. A Trovian, one of the independent trader races that operated beyond consortium borders. Allow me to introduce Ambassador Kellex, said Drake. For the past decade, the Trovian Mercantile Guild has maintained discreet relations with Earth, circumventing the quarantine for mutual benefit. Smugglers, I said flatly. Kellex shrugged elegantly. Practical opportunists. The consortium's quarantine policy was always short-sighted. Humans offered technology and protection in exchange for goods and information. A beneficial arrangement for all parties. Except the consortium, I pointed out. The consortium would have benefited as well, had they chosen cooperation over isolation, Kellex replied. As evidenced by today's events, Drake intervened before the exchange could grow more heated. Through our network of trading partners, we learned about the Hive's expansion years before they reached consortium space. We began developing countermeasures immediately, testing theories against smaller Hive incursions in remote systems. You used those systems as laboratories, Talia said, realization dawning. Studied how the Hive consumed them. We gathered critical intelligence that saved countless lives today, Drake corrected firmly, including yours. I couldn't argue with that result, however questionable the methods. So what happens now, Admiral? You clearly have plans beyond today's battle. Drake smiled. Now, Commander Telluron, we negotiate the end of humanity's quarantine and the beginning of a new alliance against the Hive. Your consortium faces an enemy it cannot defeat alone. We offer the means to survive. In exchange, we want full integration into galactic society, access to consortium technologies, and joint military command of anti-Hive operations. That's substantial, I replied cautiously. So is extinction, countered Drake. The Hive won't stop. Today was just one battle in what will be a long war. Together, we have a fighting chance. Separated, we both fall. I studied the human admiral carefully. There was more happening here than a simple rescue mission. The humans have been planning this moment for years, possibly decades, carefully positioning themselves as the saviors the consortium would need when crisis struck. Yet their intervention had saved thousands of lives today, including my own. Whatever their ulterior motives, their actions spoke of capability and commitment to fighting a common enemy. I don't have the authority to negotiate such terms, I said finally, but I can recommend that consortium leadership hear your proposal. Drake nodded, seemingly satisfied. That's all we ask for now. A fair hearing. As the meeting continued, details were exchanged about the Hive's biology, tactics, and vulnerabilities. The humans' knowledge was impressively comprehensive, confirming my suspicion that they had been studying this enemy far longer and more thoroughly than they initially admitted. Hours later, as we prepared to return to the Astral Sentinel, Admiral Drake walked me to the shuttle bay personally. Commander, he said quietly, away from the others, I understand your reservations. In your position, I'd have the same. But I hope you will convey to your superiors that while we have our own interests at heart, the threat the Hive poses is genuine and existential. Our proposal comes from a place of mutual survival, not mere opportunism. I considered his words. The Consortium Council will question the timing of your appearance, the convenience of your having exactly the right technology to combat the Hive. Of course they will, Drake acknowledged. Politics requires suspicion, but reality requires action. The Hive is coming for all of us, Commander. Today's victory is temporary. They will adapt, regroup, return stronger. We need each other. Looking into his eyes, I saw calculation, certainly, but also sincerity. The humans were indeed dangerous, as the quarantine had always maintained. But perhaps that danger was exactly what the galaxy needed facing an enemy like the Hive. I will tell them what happened here. I promised. Honestly and completely. What they decide, we shall see. Drake extended his hand, a human gesture of agreement. After a moment's hesitation, I accepted it. This could be the beginning of something truly remarkable, Drake said, or merely a brief alliance of necessity. Either way, history changed today. As our shuttle departed the Defiance, returning to the battered but intact Astral Sentinel, I gazed out at the debris field that had once been a Hive fleet. Victory had come at a cost, and with complications I hadn't anticipated when I first authorized Talia's desperate mission to Earth. The humans were back in galactic affairs. They had saved us, yes, but they had also maneuvered us masterfully, using our moment of greatest vulnerability to secure their own agenda. They were everything the quarantine had warned about: cunning, opportunistic, and dangerously intelligent. Yet facing the horror of the Hive, perhaps those very qualities were essential. Perhaps humanity's dangerous nature was precisely what made them valuable allies against an implacable enemy. One thing was certain. Nothing would be the same after today. For better or worse, humanity had returned to the galactic stage, and the universe would have to adapt to their presence once more. As Talia had observed, humans thought differently from us. They embraced contradiction and chaos in ways most consortium species found disturbing. But against an enemy that anticipated conventional responses, perhaps unconventional allies were exactly what we needed. The Astral Sentinel waited ahead, its damaged hull bearing witness to the day's desperate battle. My crew had survived. The colonists had escaped, and a new chapter in galactic history had begun. I found myself strangely optimistic about what that chapter might contain. "Commander," asked Talia as we approached our ship, "do you think the Council will agree to the humans' terms?" I considered the question carefully before responding. I think the Council will discover, as we did today, that when faced with extinction, previously unthinkable options suddenly become quite reasonable. Talia nodded thoughtfully. The humans planned for this moment. They were ready when everyone else was caught unprepared. Yes, I agreed. Which makes them either our most valuable allies or our most dangerous potential adversaries. Perhaps both simultaneously. How very human. Talia remarked with unexpected humor. I couldn't help but laugh. Indeed. How very human indeed. As we docked with the Astral Sentinel, I prepared myself for the complex explanations and reports that awaited. The quarantine was broken. The Hive was temporarily defeated, and humanity had returned to the stars not as supplicants, but as saviors. The galaxy would never be the same again. And perhaps, facing the terrors that awaited in the void, that was exactly what we needed.